everybody, and welcome back to the Atheist Experience. Nice to have you on this rainy Sunday afternoon. We are live June the 9th, 2002. So if you're not watching us on June the 9th, then this is a taped show, but right now, we're live. And this show is sponsored by Atheist Community of Austin, a non-profit educational organization promoting positive atheism and the separation of church and state. ACA holds weekly meetings every Sunday morning at Hot Jumbo Bagels, located at 307 West 5th Street, downtown between Guadalupe and Lavaca, except for the first Sunday of each month, when we have our lecture series in the Longhorn Room of First Cafeteria in North Cross Mall. Our next lecture will be, I guess, first Sunday of July, and we don't know who that's going to be, do we? Still, yet.
It was mentioned this morning, but I cannot for the life of me remember who it is.
That we might have some. Okay, well, as soon as we know.
We think we have somebody.
Okay, well, we'll jot that down and tell you next time.
Yeah, just let me know.
See, other information, other stuff that goes on with ACA. We have Godless Gamers taking place every Monday night, little recreational fun.
Is that better?
That is 7 o'clock p.m. Monday night, home of Jeff D. and Manda. So for information on that, please talk to either Jeff or Manda. Atheist Happy Hour takes place Thursday evenings at about 7:38ish at Antonio's Tex-Mex, which is near the intersection of Highway 183 and Interstate 35. Really good food, lots of fun. Good opportunity for those of us who don't seem to be able to make the Sunday morning meetings and don't want to drag ourselves out of bed. For those to get together and meet some folks. Let's see. The Nonprofits is internet. Learn your grammar, Wagner. An internet radio show that has been now going with Great Guns for about 3 months, which can be heard every Saturday afternoon at 2 p.m. on atheistnetwork.com. Your browser will need the Real Player plugin to hear the audio stream. The show is hosted by Jeff D., co-hosted by Vic Farrow and Mary McManamy. Russell's often there as well. A ton of fun.
I'm always there.
You're always there. That's right. It's your house, isn't it? So hopefully you would.
We just
hey, what are you
our 26th episode.
26 episodes.
Yes.
Great. Is the number 26 of a particular significance, or is it just a good number?
No, it's just a lot.
Yeah. Okay. You'll be saying that you started
26, half of 52.
When'd you start it?
6 months.
That's right. It's half a year now. Mm-hmm. This is your half-year anniversary.
I guess that's right.
Ooh, awesome. Yeah. Well, it's fun, and there's live chat room
flies.
feature, and you can interact with the show, and that's an hour and a half Saturday afternoons. So, November the 2nd, 2002, is the tentative date for the Godless Americans March on Washington. This, I guess, will be a big atheist event. They want to get unbelievers from all over the country to come out to our nation's capital and I guess hang out on the mall or something. Everyone else has done their March on Washington, I suppose. So it's now atheists and free thinkers' turn, and that's if nothing else, it'll be a fun excuse to get out to D.C. where I haven't been in 5, 6, 7 years.
Our turn to storm the Capitol.
That's I don't know about storming. Okay, I think we're just gonna. This is gonna be just.
We dad dun 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 dun.
We represent the Atheist Guild.
All right, we don't even take ourselves that seriously, folks, which is what makes this show fun. Okay, so then that's, I suppose, announcements. For more information on Atheist Community of Austin, you can visit our fine website at Steve, see, you gotta be on the ball with these in the control room. Okay, there we are. Good job.
Modern technology.
There we go.
Its finest.
Yeah, I like to throw them off guard like that. At atheist-community.org, or call our voicemail 371-2911 if you have questions about the group, that sort of thing. And without further ado, let's do news. Who wants to go first?
One thing I wanted to mention about announcements, I'm not positive. For the Sunday morning, are you saying 10 or 10:30?
10:30.
Okay, because we had somebody show up saying that we're always saying 10.
We're always saying 10?
And so I don't know what you have in your notes. I've
I've
heard this 100 million times, and so it flies right over
That's a lot of
me.
times. Okay, yeah.
But yeah, I'm not too sure.
Okay,
Bagel shops start at 10:30.
10:30.
So
yeah, so 10:30. Let's make sure there's no confusion there. All right. Okay. What's happening in the world?
Okay. I will start with a really, really quick one here. It's just something to look out for tomorrow night. On Monday night, there's going to be a partial eclipse. Partial eclipse will last about 2 hours. In Miami, Washington, D.C., and New York City, the eclipse begins and ends after nightfall. However, most everyone in the United States west of Atlanta can see the event, weather permitting. Observers in the south and central U.S. are best placed to see the deep eclipse at sunset. Now let me see, in Dallas, accordingly, it starts at 7:27 p.m. and goes on till 8:22 p.m.
So I guess that would be us as well in terms of our viewability of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we can go out at Gamers Night and see an
Yeah,
eclipse.
we'll have to remember that to do that. That'd be fun.
All right, actual news now. There is a stone pedestal that's receiving approval. Foundation Rock, the proposed stone pedestal display of the Ten Commandments and other secular historical writings, is a big step closer to taking up residence at the center of the Polk County Administration Building. County commissioners voted 5-0 Wednesday to approve the proposed design and content of the privately funded monument, which will include a representation of the Ten Commandments and 16 reprints or excerpts of writings or quotations supporters deem important to the foundation of American law. Now, let me just give a quick rundown of what's going to be on this. I would like to know how big this monument is going to be. Organizers say the Foundation Rock will display reprints or excerpts of the following: the Ten Commandments, Hammurabi's Code, Code of Justinian, Magna Carta, Mayflower Compact, Declaration of Independence, the U.S. Constitution and Bill of Rights, William Blackstone's commentaries on the laws of England, 2 of the Federalist Papers, the Florida Constitution, and quotations from Samuel Adams, Elias Bodino, James Madison, John Quincy Adams, Edmund Burke, Thomas Jefferson, and Patrick Henry.
Oh, yeah.
This thing is going to be freaking huge.
Yeah. Sure they're just not chiseling it all on one big wall of the building? I mean, it seems
I don't know. We'll give the public a chance to vote for the monument by donating to it.
They want to put all that on there, or they want to give people a choice of what to put on there? Is that
No,
they want to have all that on there.
Foundation Rock will display reprints or excerpts of the following. So it's going to have all of this stuff on it.
Foundation Rock.
Now,
What a rock.
No, wait. Was the Ten Commandments one of those?
Yeah,
Yes.
this is first thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
First thing, of
Yeah.
course.
It's the first thing
So
listed.
basically, what they're doing is camouflaging the Ten Commandments.
Yeah,
among
this is it.
all this
I
other stuff.
don't know. I'd like to see if it's actually going to have a pretty fair representation of all these things on it. I would be all for it.
Oh, but wait a minute, though.
But if it's got the Ten Commandments huge, and then, the Federalist
Everything
Papers
else.
written off to the side, and a little quote here, and Hammurabi's Code, and, everything's just kind of, etched in microscopic, stone writing.
As usual, they're
But-
just kind of testing the limits.
Yeah,
pushing
see,
up
this is-
against what's constitutional.
this is
and
trying to crack
figure out
that
where they can
shell.
slip
Yeah.
in the
True,
door.
but we don't
Yeah.
have a picture of this. If
All
this
right.
if this actually is fair, I would be for it.
I have a sneaking suspicion that what we're going to get is a whopping, humongous 10 Commandments with around it, there's a line from these guys and this, that, and the other. I'm pretty darn sure with it. Now, where's this? This is in Barton. Barton somewhere.
Yeah.
What town?
I'm not even seeing that, actually.
Okay.
Polk County Administration Business, so wherever
Okay.
Polk County is.
Yeah, let's find the states for these in the future. But this is okay, from theledger.com is the website, and it's from Barton somewhere, USA.
Yeah.
Let's be sure and get that information in future, because
I'll have to find out.
And see, here's the thing, though, because look, here's the revealing bit that I just glanced at that I noticed you didn't highlight, and here's the deal. No, I can't find it. I'm so brilliant. No, here it is. Here's Parker, I guess, who was one of the guys who's a supporter of this thing, says he's criticizing like, major television network, this, that, and the other, but making accusations of trying to edit out the Christian influence in American history. Okay, so again, clearly the motivation is, how can we get the Ten Commandments, this religious document, onto public land? Why don't we surround it by all of this supposedly secular stuff so maybe people won't mind and won't notice?
So we can oil it into the...
Yeah. And so that's what it is. I mean, it's still...
As Jeff always says, they're like wild animals who are running around marking their territory, hoping that if they get enough monuments that
pee
smell
on each
like
other to
them,
get the right smell.
then they can claim ownership of it.
So all of this attempt to say, well, okay, we'll make this a little more broad and a little more fair is the ruse that they use to try to continue to chip away at the wall of separation. That's all it is. It's like these moments of silence. The Perrien school has been determined to be completely unconstitutional, so the supporters say, okay, well, we'll have this completely neutral, inoffensive thing, and we'll just make it a moment of silence. People can do anything in that period. Well, we've already seen what happens to these moments of silence, right? What happened in Louisiana was they passed a moment of silence. They approved that for, I forget if it was a specific school district or if it was throughout the state.
Yeah, I do remember this.
But then what happened? One day it wasn't a moment of silence anymore.
Yeah.
One day during the moment of silence, this recited Christian prayer came over the loudspeakers.
The kids
So
weren't
this is
using
all-
it.
Isn't so.
The
This
kids
is all-
weren't
yeah.
using their moment of silence effectively, so we'll use it for
Yeah, so
them.
let's remind them what it's for. Yeah. Okay, we're talking Polk County, Florida is
Okay.
where this is. Polk County, Florida.
Cool.
So thank you very much. And it's from the Lakeland Ledger.
Yes.
Well, thank you to
Thank you very much.
a caller who's
Our
informed
research
the
Well, whenever I hear this nonsense about a moment of silence, I always say, kids, bring your Game Boys. Keep the sound off.
Turn the
Yeah.
volume down.
Very
but-
openly play your Game Boy in the middle, and if they complain, then you got a lawsuit.
They said, wait, this is our moment of silence and doing which to do anything.
it is
Yeah.
very
Instead, I
silent.
can do whatever I want. I'm playing my Game Boy.
Yeah, it's silent.
Precisely. So anyway,
Might as well go on to this one. This one was brought up, actually. We touched upon it last week really quickly, but didn't get into it. Abortion foes add digital cameras and websites to their arsenal. The dual pits privacy rights of abortion patients against the protest rights of anti-abortion supporters who seek to shame the women. Anti-abortion protesters have a new tactic. They take digital pictures of women entering the clinics and post them on an internet site. The website is designed to shame homicidal mothers. Would you be more or less likely to kill your baby if you knew that there was a possibility your picture might be published in a place where your friends and family and the whole world might see it? Web creator Neil Horsley said. Abortion right advocates call the digital photography harassment. They say the approach legal, provided the pictures are taken from a public street or alley, tramples the rights of patients. Cities publish pictures of Johns who seek prostitutes, said Philip Hendricks, a protester. Shame is a powerful tool that is
hello,
something God
prostitution
has used.
is illegal in this country, and abortion isn't.
Yep.
I have no patience with these people anymore. These are
Nitwits.
terrorist organizations, and I think the Justice Department should treat them like terrorist organizations. Right?
there-
And what do
if
we do
there-
to terrorist organizations?
If there isn't a law against this kind of thing, there should
we
be.
round them up. Yeah, this is.
Right, and it's not necessarily that they'd be ashamed of what they're doing. It's that I don't want a bunch of hostile strangers putting my picture on the
Exactly.
internet in
Exactly.
any context with a caption under it that says, "This is a bad guy."
Yeah.
Yeah, they have no idea what's going on. A lot of these clinics where they do the protesting provide abortion services, but they also provide a whole variety of gynecological services, right? I mean, they get pap smears, get pelvic exam, whatever. So they don't know necessarily that a woman who is entering this clinic is going there for the purpose of having an abortion.
Yep.
She could be going for any number of reasons, and yet they
But they're
photograph
gonna
her,
take her picture, put it
take
on
her
the
picture,
internet.
put her on her website, and call her essentially a
homicidal
killer.
mother.
A killer. They're going to call her a murderer. I don't see why these guys can't get sued into oblivion, but
Yeah. And I like this. Scott said demonstrations have persuaded more than 30 women to walk away from the Denver abortion center this year. Now, I'd like to know what kind of persuasion they used. Big sticks and pictures of you on the internet is not persuading anything.
no, it's harassment and it's
Now, whether you agree with abortion or not,
it's threatening.
this is purely harassment, and there's no other way to look at it.
We just got a note saying
Yeah.
the U.S.
Nuremberg
Court
files.
just ruled the Nuremberg files is protected speech.
Yeah, now I would like to get more information about that. Now, of course, we know what. For those of you who don't know what the Nuremberg files are, this is an anti-abortion website that advocates the murder of abortion doctors.
Wow.
They don't come out and say go out and kill these guys,
Of
okay?
course, of
But what they do is they provide a list of actual names and when they can addresses and phone numbers and personal information on their list. They just have this list. Here are all the evil baby killers and what happens is when one of these guys gets shot by a lunatic, dead, okay, in the parking lot of his clinic or even at his home,
Okay.
they put a little scratch mark through his name.
Oh,
They scratch his name out. Okay, that there is no way to spin that other than to say it's a clear advocacy of murder.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
So again,
horrible.
I mean, those people belong in prison. That's all there is to it. Okay, and you say it's free speech. No, he's going out and saying, somebody that we didn't like got killed. Well, let's scratch his name off and Okay, maybe that is speech, but still, we know what's motivating it is this desire to intimidate.
Technically, I can see why this would be protected, but you still have to. I'm a big fan of just bringing a little bit of common sense back into the law. Yes, taking a picture of someone, putting it on the internet, that's perfectly legal. I don't see too many problems with that.
No, wait, I don't know
but
that it
the
is.
intention behind this is purely just harassment.
Intimidation and harassment.
Yeah, and that is something where they should be able to look at it and say, look, this is completely freaking ridiculous.
Now, do either of you have? I had been seeing something in the papers this week about the most recent guy that they've caught, who was in like one of these abortion doctor shooters.
The one who killed Sleepian.
That would be it, yeah. And he's now
don't have it.
they've nailed him, and of course he's being indicted and is trying to. So that's what's happening.
Good.
But still, it's just despicable that they have to resort to this sort of bullying of the worst degree in order to get their points made.
Yeah.
And of course, and again, what would stop? What would stop? Or what would at least curtail the number of abortions being done right now?
Certainly not posting their pictures.
Well,
but
what would curtail it? Okay, it's something else that these funding morons don't want, which is comprehensive sex education, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you've ever watched. I don't know if it's still on even, but Loveline on MTV at nights, which is the call-in show. They have this call-in show, and there's like Adam Carolla as host, and then Dr. Drew is the actual doctor, and it's a show about sexuality for youth, right? And they have the studio audience, and then people call in and ask questions about sexually oriented matters, and they're all 18, 19, 20-year-olds.
Yeah.
Very young, and there's an actual doctor on the show giving them answers to their questions. And if you've ever watched this, some of the calls that come in, you cannot imagine just how stupid. It's just like that they even ask that about like even you think even dumber than, well, I thought you couldn't get pregnant the first time, or this. Or that. There are questions even dumber than that. And this has to do with
standing up at the time. You can't get
something.
I mean, this is MTV we're talking about.
Well, sure, but I mean, it's no different than, Leno goes out with his mic and asks people on the street basic questions and they can't answer. But this shows how thoroughly uneducated our, the youth of America are on basic sexual health matters, right? And if they had some inkling of this, so, if you put knob A in slot B, stuff happens.
And I can't understand.
This would curtail a lot of the unwanted pregnancies and a lot of the but what the Christians want, they don't want sex education from a health perspective, or from a health or safety perspective, or from a biology scientific perspective. They want it strictly from a moral perspective, and specifically a moral perspective that can be summed up in one sentence, which is, if you're not married and you're not doing it to make babies, don't have sex.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the sex education they want in a nutshell.
Which I'm sorry is completely not going to happen.
Well, which doesn't work.
Yeah.
But they don't want
unrealistic.
to have. If you just try to teach and educate young people on the consequences of irresponsible sexual behavior, well then nobody's going to do, or fewer people at least, are going to go out and do irresponsible behavior.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, when I was a little boy, all those photos of black and shriveled lungs that I saw in third grade,
did it for smoking.
Had a whole lot to do with why I'm not a smoker today. Look at that going, wow, hell no, I'm not doing that. So education works.
It works.
But they don't want that. So this is the irony there, is that we're now in this vicious circle that they're insisting upon fueling. The very people who are out harassing and threatening these women who are going in for who knows what sort of health services they might need are the same people who would say, okay, well, let's tell them, well, why don't we get a good comprehensive sex education thing in the schools so that young people know the consequences of, oh no, you'll just get some long-haired hippie liberal out there handing out condoms saying everybody bang everybody. That's what they think it's about.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. There is no cure for willful ignorance. Russell, what do you got?
Let's see. Well, I've got an upper and a downer. Which one do you want first?
Let's do the upper first.
Okay, this is pretty humorous.
Okay.
I can after.
Brentwood. A hearing Monday to determine whether a former East Kingston man is competent to stand trial turned into a bizarre courtroom discussion in which the man proclaimed that he is God while arguing to act as his own attorney. Judge Philip Holman granted the request from Michael Resk, 37, to proceed pro se during his trial, which is slated for the week of June 24th. Resk, who appeared in court in an orange prison jumpsuit, has grown his brown hair to his shoulders since his arrest in April 2001. Resk spent much of his time in court questioning whether the judge and people in the court were, in his opinion, competent in their jobs.
Oh, that's a way to impress a judge.
I know the law of God, and you don't practice the law of God, Resk said to Judge Holman. I'm the man! Holman responded, what do you mean I'm the man? Resk stated, I'm God and you're not. You're on my seat and you don't belong there since you don't know who Jesus Christ is. So let me understand. You think you are God. Resk, who did not stand through any part of the hearing, responded, I'm your boss. Before ruling on Resk's request to proceed pro se, Judge Holman said he had to determine that he knowingly and intelligently was giving up his right to a lawyer.
I don't think this guy's knowingly and intelligently doing anything. But
the judge began with a series of questions about Resk's background and whether or not he had ever acted as his own lawyer in the past. He then questioned Resk about his knowledge of the rules of evidence. That's anything you say can and will be used against you, Resk told the judge as he swiveled from side to side in his chair. Let me help you out here, so you'll understand, Holman said. They're very complicated. I would imagine you are not really skilled in the rules of evidence.
I would imagine so.
Saying, yes.
Yeah.
Even some of the lawyers I see are not skilled on the rules of evidence. You're not going to know how to get certain matters into evidence that you want to get into evidence. It's not something you'll be able to learn by reading a few books. The judge then asked Resk what he felt was important when picking jurors. What do I consider important? It's not what you think. I would want somebody who knows the law, the real law. I would want somebody who believes in the Father, Resk said. I don't see the ways you guys pick the jury as being a benefit to anyone you prosecute. The judge repeatedly stressed to Resk the dangers of proceeding without an attorney. I want you to be aware of the risks you can suffer is you don't know what you're doing. Yeah. You can end up a loser, the judge said. I'm not a loser, Resk responded.
That's a matter of opinion.
The judge also
was is the courtroom in hysterics at this point? I mean,
I don't know.
This would have been wonderful to have been
rolling in the aisles.
Oh, if there's video of this on court TV or anything.
That's the only reason the judge approved it is because he's going to laugh his ass off for the next 5 years.
But he's conducting himself with wonderful decorum here. I mean, I have to give him props for that. That's
The judge also pointed out that the Rockingham County Attorney's Office is seeking maximum sentences on the 6 charges against Resk, which could put him in jail for 60 to 180 years.
Now, what was he busted?
I'll live forever, Resk told the court.
Okay, what was this guy busted for in the first place? Just
theft, I think.
Oh, theft. Right. Okay. Not.
But that's
not
okay, because God's laws don't apply to himself. We know that.
Well, they can attack impersonating a deity onto it now. So.
My God!
Is that a crime?
If America's laws were based on
no,
that would be a crime, but it isn't.
Okay.
Impersonating a police officer.
All right, so I'm being again reminded from in the control room to keep an eye on that date on the upper right-hand corner of your screen there. We are live today, June the 9th, but if you're not watching us on June the 9th, well, then this will be a tape show. Ordinarily, we are a call-in show. We take calls from all of our fine viewers out there and have a lot of fun with that. So anyway, for more information, there's our website, voicemail addresses, and Steve, you can go ahead and put the call-in number on the line, on the screen. There we go. I'm just not Mr. Malaprop today. So that we can get those racked up while I do one little piece that I meant to do about 2 or 3 weeks ago, actually. But it's still relevant because I think that this shows the danger of what can happen when irresponsible, inaccurate information is spread to a global public and the risks involved. I'm just going to read this piece verbatim as it came from the Santa Rosa Press Democrat. And this is a story that's, again, it's actually kind of old, May 15th. I meant to do it 2 weeks ago and a tape ran.
Yeah.
And then I meant to do it last week, and I couldn't find where my folder was, like a nitwit, but I have it today. So I'm just going to read it verbatim and not editorialize while I'm reading it, just to let you know what has been going on here. This is written by Steve Hart of the Press Democrat out in Santa Rosa, California. He writes, the Bohemian Grove invader sentenced to 11 years in prison. And this was a sentence that exceeded the recommendation from the county probation department. What happened was, back in January, some lunatic with a gun in some kooky outfit invaded this retreat out in California called the Bohemian Grove, which apparently caters to the rich and hoity-toity. Now what's happened is the self-styled commando who invaded the Bohemian Grove in January was sentenced last month in May to almost 12 years in prison after a judge said he could have sparked a bloodbath. Quote, "You were ready to die, and you were ready to take a whole lot of people with you," Judge Elliot Lee Daum told Richard McCaslin, age 37. McCaslin, an ex-Marine and failed movie stuntman from Texas, told authorities he decided to invade the exclusive men's retreat on the Russian River after watching a video of a purported human sacrifice at the Bohemian Grove. The video was made by Alex Jones, a Texas radio and TV talk show host who claims U.S. political and business leaders practice occult rituals at the Grove near Monte Rio. McCaslin admitted the images on the videotape are fuzzy, but told authorities he believes they show an infant being thrown into a fire. He arrived at the Grove January 19th armed with an assault rifle, a handgun, a fireworks launcher, a sword, and 150 rounds of ammunition. McCaslin was wearing a bulletproof vest, a skull mask, and a commando-style uniform with the name Phantom Patriot sewn onto it. All right. But I don't see web shooters in his thing of animation. Yeah, ammunition.
Is that DC or Marvel? I haven't heard of that.
I'm not quite sure. Well, maybe he was hoping to license himself after his great raid, and he was being proclaimed a hero.
Boy.
Anyway, this guy sneaked inside Bohemian Grove, stayed overnight, starting 2 small fires in empty buildings in the morning. McCaslin said he was looking for satanic cultists, but found only a caretaker and a security guard. Okay, they called sheriff's deputies who confronted McCaslin as he was walking out of the Grove the next day. He hid behind a tree and refused to drop his weapons. Deputies and CHP officers eventually convinced McCaslin to put down his guns and give up. No shots were fired in the incident. McCaslin denied being a member of any extremist group and said he acted on his own. Last January, he moved from Texas to Carson City, Nevada to set up the raid. In April, a jury found McCaslin guilty of arson, burglary, brandishing a firearm at a peace officer, and another weapons charge. Daum sentenced him to 11 years, 8 months in state prison.
Wow.
And probation report also said McCaslin carefully planned the intrusion and has expressed no regrets about what he did. The report said McCaslin has a, quote, delusional belief system and is a danger to others. But McCaslin told Daum he still believes there are occult evildoers at Bohemian Grove. Quote, nobody wants to investigate, he said. They all just want to sweep it under the rug. But the judge said Jones' videotape is, quote, a piece of trash that shouldn't have fooled anyone. McCaslin's attorney claims that McCaslin didn't intend to shoot anyone, despite dragging out
150 rounds of ammo
and 100 pounds worth of weapons. It was more to make a big statement. Right. Well, that didn't obviously fly with the jury. And
how's this for a statement? 11 years in prison.
Yeah, cha-ching. So, see, folks, this is what happens when these kooky ideas just gain currency.
The guy's a nut job.
We already have a problem, right, where it is far too easy for irresponsible people to get a hold of firearms.
Yes.
Okay, but this is very reminiscent, right, of when you have nut bars like Tim McVeigh. Okay, well, when he was arrested, okay, he had all this hate literature in his car.
Yeah.
Okay, like the Turner Diaries, and all of this white supremacist literature, and he had all of these wild, just loony belief systems that had been fueling this rage that he already had against the government, and it just got worse and worse and worse. And look what happened in Oklahoma City. Yeah. Fortunately, and it didn't happen in
at least this psycho didn't actually
California,
get anywhere.
So we desperately need to teach critical thinking in the schools, very desperately. Get people to realize. Let's see what Carolyn has to say about all this. It's time to take calls. Hello, Carolyn?
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm just great.
Hey.
Well, first of all, I do believe we need to teach reasonable thinking in the schools. I agree with you on that point. And I think critical thinking is seriously lacking in the curriculum now, where they're just trying to teach them how to pass the test, and they're not really giving them the bigger pictures, and they're losing a lot of their sociology and psychology and some of the more liberal arts studies that they used to get in high school now in favor of other things. And I do agree with you on that point. The reason I called, however, was to give you guys a compliment. I'm not a member of the atheist community of Austin, but I had opportunity to come in contact with your group, and I really think that y'all did a good job and handled yourself appropriately in the situation. It was at the when Fred Phelps was coming to speak on the drag, and I was there to protest just as an individual because I find the man so ridiculous and offensive, and I just didn't want him stepping foot in my town without being challenged. And your group was there, and you handled yourself with such poise and dignity and respect, and you didn't challenge the religious people. You weren't there to, you weren't protesting their right to go to church. You were protesting this other man's right to cause hatred and violence in our community.
As I understand it, I did not make it out there to that protest. I would have, but as I understand it, our folks, when the actual congregation of UBC, University Baptist Church, turned up, everybody put their signs down and let them go in and have their service that morning without because we weren't there to protest them.
It has nothing to do with them directly.
It was, and
we don't agree with what they're talking about in church, but we agree with their right to talk about it and not be harassed. Of course.
That was my point exactly. I found your whole group to be very intelligent and rational, and you understood the issues, and you weren't arguing like a one-pointed issue, like somebody, for example, an abortion rights person. That's all they can talk about, and they're totally focused on one issue. And I found your group to be refreshing and diverse and talking reasonably about a variety of issues that appeal to me.
Well, thanks very much.
Well, I just wanted to say that y'all do a really good job, and it takes a lot of the scariness, perhaps, out of what some of the more traditional people might feel atheists are, and I really wanted to commend you for doing a good job here on TV and in public.
Thanks very much.
Okay.
Well, like people in, like the gay community, right? Atheism has a great many negative stereotypes that have gained currency in culture that, we're very happy to disabuse people of. The ministers and people in power in religious organizations, of course, have a vested interest to demonize anyone who isn't a member of the fold and who might present an alternative or an opposing view. We don't want to do that. On our program, we don't attack Christians for being Christians. We don't engage in personal attacks against people, unless, of course, they do something specific that merits that. Falwell, every time he opens his mouth and makes some moronic, bigoted statement, we'll come down on him for that.
And he deserves it.
Yeah, but we're critical of the belief system, and we like to engage in debate about that sort of thing. But we don't want to get but we never get personal unless it's called for, and unless we get it first. But that doesn't really happen. I think our viewers are really great.
Yes.
Our callers, whether they agree with us or not, most of the time call us up and we have very stimulating and fun conversations. And we thank you for watching our program, and that we hope you keep watching and that you stay in touch with us.
And we'll keep Austin weird. It takes all types, and I mean, people, no matter what you believe, if you're in Austin, you have a right to believe it and express it and talk about it. And I appreciate you guys.
Right. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carol.
Thank you very much for calling.
Yes. Yeah, debating, being able to, a free exchange of ideas is what makes for a strong culture. Scott is on line 1. Hello, Scott.
What's going on, Martin?
Not a lot. How you doing?
The guy in the red shirt, back in 1996, was convicted of child molestation. It's in Travis County Courthouse. You can go up there, public information. He molested a 4-year-old.
Okay, I'm sorry. We missed the beginning of that.
I said the guy in the red shirt back in 1996 was convicted of child molestation.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you wish.
In 1996, I wasn't even in the States.
Yeah. See. Then again, you get complete losers who don't have
personal. I just feel unfamiliar.
And then
prove
our
our
call
point.
screener is on his first day. Actually,
Okay.
I probably shouldn't have mentioned that.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I should mention that because
So you can't get
Sympathy, though.
You
No.
can't get all the fruitcakes though. And
Right.
This is obviously one just plain old nut job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Sorry.
who's on 3?
We will find out. Daniel's on 3. Let's see what we got going on. Daniel?
Yes, hello.
Hi. Yeah, you're on the air.
I'm just curious what an atheist is.
An atheist is a person who doesn't believe in any gods.
Okay, and what led you to this belief system?
Okay, well, atheism isn't a belief system. It's a skeptical attitude towards religious belief systems.
Sure. Religious belief.
Yeah, I was raised in a religious household, but you know, as I got older and started to think about some of the things that I was being taught in church and that sort of thing, they didn't really make a whole lot of sense to me, and I wasn't getting answers to my questions. And the more I grew up, I just decided I didn't really believe in that stuff that I was being taught. Yeah, we have on our website a very informative fact page, frequently asked questions, where people just covering the most basic questions such as what is atheism, what do atheists think about stuff, and why wouldn't someone believe in a god as opposed to believing in one, and that sort of thing. You might find some good answers to your questions there.
Yeah, I can't blame you with the way that religions are. Religion itself is the seat of evil, in the sense that it repels people or it brings people in for control. I'm not saying that I don't believe in God, but I certainly understand why you could feel that way about religion.
Well, it's not so much just religion. I mean, we do have our criticisms of religion too. I mean, yes, it is. They are institutions that are set up for the purposes of wielding power.
Sure.
But that's
agree with you on that.
That is an issue, of course, that is entirely separate from, say, criticisms of theology or various theistic ideas.
Sure.
So we take everything we criticize everything on its own merits.
Sure. Do you feel that you have a purpose here, though, in life?
Well, sure. I think that one's purpose in life, is what one makes of the time one has here.
Okay.
That's also on our fact page.
Yeah, that's another one.
What's that? I didn't hear you.
Yeah, that's another, as Russell pointed out, that's another fact question. The idea that life only has one purpose and it has to be sort of externally imposed upon you from some other source, I think is really misguided. One's purpose in life has to do with how one develops one's personality and maturity as one grows and interacts with one's friends and families and loved ones in one's community, and you find your purpose. It's a life as a constant learning process, and finding what your purpose is part of that process.
Sure.
Yeah. So some people never find it, but you just have to, you make your way through life as best you can, and you do the best you can with the information that you have, and you just try to be a good person. That's my philosophy.
So do you have a negative feeling on the word God, or what people... The word God, the idea of God. Some people have the idea, a negative connotation towards God. What is God?
Well, this is another one that's actually been brought up a couple times.
It's hard to hear you too, guys.
Oh, sorry.
Maybe it's just the fact that I'm on the phone.
Okay, well, we'll try and work on the mics.
Okay.
But we've had a couple times to where it's the idea that maybe we had a bad experience or something like that, and that's what turned us away. We hate God or something like that. For most of us, that is really not the issue at all. We've just looked at the world, decide does this idea of a God making it really make sense? And no, it doesn't. I personally, and nobody in the group that I know of, really has a bad idea of God. And the idea that was used a couple times was, does anybody have a bad idea of Darth Vader? He's a fictional character.
Okay.
Don't believe in him, so...
Well, do you feel that there's a higher creator, or one that has created this? Not in a sense as a person or a being, but just in the sense of this whole purpose of us being here, this planet, in the sense that the idea that something has created this.
I don't believe that any sentient being that anyone could consider a god. Now, if you want to go back and say, well, the laws of nature and the laws of the universe and gravity are God, sure, whatever you want to go for.
See, the problem with God as a concept...
there's no big man in the sky in a robe who...
No, and I don't believe that either.
Well, the problem with God as a concept, right, is that, it is... one first has to arrive at an understanding even of what that means. And so if someone wants to propose the idea of a God to me, what I first really need to get from them is a good, solid operational definition of what that being is. In the same way, in the same practical sense that if you said the word cat to me, I would know what you were talking about. So I have not heard any sort of a definition of God or a deity that has really made a whole lot of sense or has been well argued for.
Yeah.
That's not to say that it can't be done, but so far I would have to say that lacking any evidence that's compelling or persuasive, I don't have any reason to believe that some sort of sentient force or deity or intelligent power is behind why we're here. Now, I understand why a lot of people think that. It is setting aside, of course, the obvious influence that religion and the establishment of religion has had over human culture for millennia. People very naturally are pattern-seeking creatures. We seek to understand things very much on our own terms.
Correct.
And so we understand that in our lives, we create things, we build things, we make stuff, we organize things in order so that they are useful and understandable to us. And so we project that quality upon bigger things like the universe itself. It's an assumption that's made, well, you know, I have a level of design in my life, you know, my home was built by people like me and I live in it and I guide the things that happen in my life as best I can with some sort of purpose. There's a natural inclination possibly for people to project that sort of tendency upon the universe on a broader scale. But I don't think that that's an accurate way, again, to go about knowledge. I think that what you have to do is look at what the available evidence shows, and if the available evidence supports that assumption, then you can continue to go with it. If the available evidence doesn't lend a whole lot of support to that assumption, then you have to look at other things. Russell, you had a comment.
Yeah, I have a question, actually. You believe in God, correct?
Speak up just a little bit, please.
Yeah.
Our mics are bad today, sorry.
Correct, that's right.
You believe in God, right?
Well, that's the irony of trying to define what is the word God. I mean, I use the word God very loosely.
Okay, but do you believe that whatever this God happens to be gives your life a purpose?
Well, I don't think that. Let's see here. How do I state that? I think yes, I do have a purpose here.
Okay.
Was I assigned that, or do I look at a creator as bringing me here for a reason? No, not per se. I look on an own personal level of personal evolution in the sense that.
Okay, so I don't need to argue with you that a person's life can have a purpose without relying on a God to impute that purpose to it.
Sure, and we try to use that word God, and we try to describe and explain these words. And I just forget about all these words. I've never studied religion, and I have no desire to study religion because I think again that it is the seed of evil, and it really repels people. But I feel that it's a beautiful experience to share love. And what is love? As you say, maybe the vibration, the love vibration.
What?
Okay. You're okay. Yeah. We're kind of maybe getting off on another topic here, but in general, right? People should be good to one another. I think that's people should treat one another well, and in order for our culture and our society and our species to continue to survive and thrive, right?
Okay.
And I think that is really the best thing that can be done. The best that anyone can do is to live one's life in a way, live one's life in a way that is commensurate with how can I not only allow my own life to succeed and thrive in the best possible way, but how can I most benefit the people around me?
Sure.
So
that sounds good.
Yeah.
And I like that.
Yeah, well, great. Okay. Well, we appreciate you watching the show. We do have a lot of other callers.
I do appreciate what you have to say in the sense that I don't necessarily believe in everything that you believe, but it sure would be boring if we all thought the same way.
Well, keep watching the show, and maybe you'll have something to challenge us on in the future. All right?
Okay.
We appreciate your watching. Thanks.
Thanks, Colin.
Yeah, okay. Vic is online, too, and I think this might be... Hello, Vic.
Hey guys.
Hey, how you
what's
doing?
up?
I'm just tickled pink. I got new cable service, so I actually get to watch the show.
Oh, good. Well,
Welcome to the viewership.
about time one of our own very own co-chairs couldn't watch our show. What's up with
And
that?
so I turned it on a little
producer of
late,
the
but
show.
I catch it when this fella who's accusing Ashley of being a child molester
Yeah,
claiming
if that was an attempt to take some heat off the Catholic Church, it didn't work.
Well, what I found funny about it was that he calls up, says, that guy in the red shirt. I looked him up on the internet. What's his name?
See, there's not a whole lot of they don't put like anything resembling thought into these.
No, it's just a way of poisoning the well.
Yeah. Well, you know,
Anyway,
that's all some people can do. You know, but that's their problem. not
I
ours.
would trust Ashley with my own kids.
Well, there you go.
they look a lot alike, right? Except for the goatee, right? I mean,
I haven't mentioned that yet.
well, you didn't
but
want us to.
maybe
Your baby has a goatee?
No. I'll wait until Vic gets off.
Okay. Well, you said not to, so.
That's true.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yes. But you're a proud dad, and congratulations to you.
2 weeks old now, and a lot of you may have seen my my father, Dr. Alan Glasser, in reruns
Yes.
on this show.
On the same day.
So this baby is hopefully destined to be a fifth generation atheist.
Fifth generation. Well, all right. Okay.
Right.
But the problem is your dad kind of looks like some biblical guy, doesn't he? So with this big flowing white
Looks
beard.
more like it every year.
Yeah, so with this big, there may be some dissonance there, but hopefully not. So what else is going on, Vic?
No, not much. Just
Not much.
I've been spending the last 3 hours trying to get the new PC card to my computer to work so I could get the high-speed internet to work.
Okay.
And I should have stuck around
everything's falling
Russell's house
apart at your
yesterday and
place,
let him do it. It would have gone a lot faster.
Well, we're glad that you're watching the show, and keep it up, because you kind of being co-chair. You know,
Yeah,
you gotta.
I'm an important person now.
Yeah, that's right. You're very important, and it's like the whole house of cards would come tumbling down without you.
I hope I get out first.
Hey, man.
You guys take it easy.
Good to hear from you.
Bye.
Thank you very much. And that was our co-chair, the ever-serious Vic Farrow.
Yes,
Well,
and he was actually an earlier producer of the show, too.
And co-host for a few months.
Yeah.
Just before I became co-host, he was
Yeah.
co-host.
Yeah.
So he's...
And he's on the radio show.
On the radio show, that's right. The coach. See, it's a big family, isn't it? We're all just happy together. Mary is online. Hello.
Hello?
Hi, Mary.
Hi.
Yeah.
Hi, you're on the air.
Thank you. I wanted to say something about a remark last week about the churches coming to accept in vitro fertilization. Actually, the Roman Catholic Church is still firmly against it.
Oh, they've never done it?
No, and they've got good information from God about how people are supposed to become pregnant. As a matter of fact, they refused to allow a Catholic paraplegic man to marry because they didn't think he'd be able to impregnate his wife in a conventional fashion.
Wow.
Yeah, well, that's...
Wow.
You know,
Did he
I
explain
think the
that's
Bible says
not
something
one of
about
the
how
limps he
you're
lost?
supposed to shun handicapped people because they're not allowed in church or something along
Well,
those
now
lines.
they are.
Well, I don't know about that, but also they have a thing about menstruating women that seems to be at the bottom of the ban on female priests.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it's-
thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Hey, thank you.
Okay.
Well, there would
Thanks,
also,
Sean.
of course, be the bit from Paul's epistles, where talking about women should not speak up and they should remain silent in church and this and that.
Yep.
To reinforce some of what some of the information Mary just gave us. Yeah, there is this. It astonishes me, okay, that the Roman Catholic Church is out there still operating as this humongous moral authority over the human race. Especially considering, not just in the light of all of
Have we
its...
had the phone number up lately?
we should go ahead and put that back up, Steve, to get some of the calls racked up a little more. But the... not just in the wake of their recent pedophilia scandals, but they have this enormous, very badly checkered history of genocide and war and torture and the Inquisition and all of this crazy stuff that they've done. I was out of town all this week visiting my parents in their hometown. And there's a Catholic church in their town that has just one of the most preposterous displays I've ever seen in my life. There is this bogus tombstone. It's a real tombstone, but there's like no actual grave there. But there's a tombstone that they have plopped up on the front lawn of the church, okay, with the slogan, "In memory of all unborn children."
Oh, geez.
Okay, now I thought about this for a second. It's like, okay, as an anti-abortion statement, it's like they messed up on their language a bit, okay? It's like all unborn children aren't being aborted, okay? I mean, a lot of them are eventually going to go on and be born. So you can't quite say in memory of all unborn children, but
That grave
still...
would have to be infinitely large, don't you think?
But still, it is simply appalling that in the wake of everything that they have been guilty of lately, with the scandals and the cover-ups and the cover-ups of the cover-ups and what have you, that they would continue to preach these. If I were the sort of person who were into pranks, and I'm not, I'm a law-abiding, nice guy, I was so tempted, saying, if I had a sticky label, okay, put it over the word unborn, and replace it with the word molested.
Oh.
Just to rub it in their nose a little bit.
Yeah,
You know, these people have, I'm sorry.
Point out the obvious.
An organized crime syndicate like the Roman Catholic Church has no business getting out there, instructing people and chastising people on decisions that they have made in life, some of which may or may not be moral. Okay, some women have abortions because, there's some terrible medical health crisis, and either the mother or the baby or both will die if it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Sometimes that happens. And again, if you want to stop abortion as some form of retroactive birth control, then let's get the sex education going so that kids know the consequences of irresponsible sexual behavior. Okay? But, this whole, they don't know, the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing and all the rest of it. And it's just appalling, simply appalling. Or they do know, but they don't care. I mean, they are openly and deliberately two-faced about. All right, let's see what, I'm sorry, do you have a comment?
I'm still hung up on that whole, in memory of all unborn
Yeah,
children.
I mean,
does that mean even unconceived children? Because, every month that a woman does not have sex, you have an unborn a child.
And is it not true that even even in natural pregnancies that are, we're in a great many cases, in fact, I think in more cases than the fertilized ovum does not attach to the uterine wall, right? That happens more often than not.
But I mean, if they're really concerned, think about this for a minute. If they're really concerned about unborn children, why do they preach abstinence? People should be having as much sex as possible, because every moment they're not having sex,
that's a baby that's not being born.
It's a wasted opportunity to bring a baby to birth.
Now we're back to that, and every sperm is Monty Python movie thing. Yeah. All right. Well, okay. Well, we could do that all the way to its absurd end, but we'll see what David has to say instead. Here, David.
Yeah. Hi.
You're on the air. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
All right.
I just had a little comment. I sit around and I see you guys point out a lot of the stupidity with the Catholic Church and a lot of religions in general. And I think you have a legitimate point. There are a million and two things you can do to point out the stupid things that they do. But organized religion and God don't necessarily have to be the same thing. I mean, what if the concept of God were true, but man has sort of distorted it, and the Catholic Church, for example, has spun it and done a lot of things in such a way that they've made it look stupid, like you guys point out all the time. And maybe what if there is a God, but man has sort of had his way with God and turned him and twisted him around into this stupid thing we have right now?
What if Satan is God?
Well, yeah. See, there are quite a well. Okay, I'll respond to the points sort of in order. First off, I would think that a God as he is described by the Christian faith ought to have a responsibility to, and should have the ability, if he indeed possesses the attributes of omnipotence, for example, if his powers are unlimited, if he is omniscient, which means that his knowledge of all events, past, present, and future, is limitless, and if he is omnibenevolent, if he loves us all, and wants us all to have, this great salvation in his grace, or however you want to put it, it would seem to me that a God matching that description would then have a responsibility to make it abundantly clear to the people whom he wishes to worship him what it is he is all about, so that these kinds of confusions would not take place.
But that's exactly what I'm talking about. What if God doesn't match that description? What if that is not God? What if that's man's interpretation of it?
Okay, well then...
Okay. What's your definition then?
I don't know. I don't know. I'm a man. I don't know.
Right.
There's no way I can know.
Okay. A God
but you're attacking religion, not God.
Well, no. Here's the thing, though. A God that no human being in the history of the world has ever properly comprehended clearly is not a God who is relevant to our lives. Okay.
But
I mean, if there is a deity out there, and no human being has ever in the history of the human race managed to correctly identify or contact or have any sort of understanding of this being, okay, then in other words, if God is incomprehensible, then God cannot matter. Okay, something that we cannot comprehend cannot have any sort of bearing on our day-to-day lives.
Granted, that may be true, but how can you say that he doesn't exist?
But
we
then,
don't say he doesn't exist.
Yeah, well, the thing is, if you want to demonstrate that something exists, then you need to provide evidence for the existence of this being. On the other hand, if what you're describing is a being that is by its own nature incomprehensible to us, then its existence, whether it exists or not, is utterly irrelevant and cannot matter to our lives. But then on the other hand, if you want to discuss a concept of a deity that is comprehensible to us, then whoever it is who is supporting the idea of that deity, whoever it is who thinks he has the evidence for that being's existence, and for whether or not that being's existence is relevant to us, then that person needs to present their findings and their evidence and their opinions and make them available for scrutiny and criticism and debate. But if you just want to talk about, well, what if there's some being and we have no idea what he is? Well, then who cares? I mean, I can't be sure that there isn't some advanced alien species living on some distant planet somewhere. I don't know I don't know any definite factual information about the likelihood or the unlikelihood.
Yeah, but at the same time, I don't take out a TV show talking about how there's no alien species on another planet.
That's true, but this is and I'll let you guys get your comments in a minute. I think Russell first. But what we have in our culture, okay, is a religious culture that says repeatedly belief in God is essential and important and it matters, and it matters to whether or not a person can be a moral individual, a law-abiding individual, a productive individual, a happy individual. If there were such a thing in our society right now, similar to the way religion has set itself up, stating you have to believe in space aliens. If you don't believe in space aliens, you're a bad guy. If you don't believe in space aliens, you can't hold public office. We want school children to chant mantras in school to space aliens. We want to have some space alien of literature posted on government building walls. If that were in play in the United States, then guess what? You'd probably see television shows with guys like us out there saying, hello, where are these space aliens?
Point taken.
So religion is... So there are a lot of people out there. I mean, the Christian faith is very powerful, and there are a lot of people out there who aren't promoting the idea of an incomprehensible God. They have very definite ideas of what their God wants and what their God is like, what their God thinks and how he acts. And we can only give our opinions and our criticisms of that. That's all we can do. Now, I think Russell and Ashley I want to let Russell get to his point first, and then we'll go to Ashley.
First of all, I want to actually sort of disagree with what you said earlier, that if we don't understand something, then it can't be relevant.
Well, not understand, but have any comprehension of it all.
Right, but the thing is, we've got this set of things that we do understand, and a set of things that we don't understand. These are things that are objectively true in our universe. But the amount of things that we don't understand are getting smaller all the time. I mean, you know, if we've looked where we've come from in the last several thousand years, and the thing to do when we don't understand something is, number one, acknowledge that we don't understand it and don't make an assumption that it's true. And number two, go out and investigate it and try to understand it better. Try to improve our understanding of it so that then, sometime in the future, maybe not in our lifetimes, but eventually, we can say, yes, we have thorough understanding of this sort of thing.
And that's exactly my criticism of you guys, because I don't say that I know the absolute truth on God.
Neither do we.
Exactly, yeah. but you're sitting here on TV saying that you do know, and the truth is there's no God.
And that's my point.
Go.
Which goes well onto me.
Yeah, good segue. Yeah.
The atheist is not saying that there is no God. It's a lack of a belief, which is a little bit different. Going back to the aliens, for instance, I don't have any evidence, I don't have any proof that there are aliens living on Venus or whatever. And since there is no proof, I'll choose to believe that there aren't. I'm not saying that there are definitely no aliens on Venus. I'm saying we don't have any evidence. It's not affecting me.
There's no reason
to
believe
it.
Yeah.
Unicorns. I don't have any evidence of unicorns. I don't believe that they exist. If they brought one out, if they trotted one out tomorrow, heck, I'd go for it immediately. Just like.
And this gets back to I don't know if you're watching earlier in the program, but we were talking with another caller about definitions of God. A lot of the problem with dealing with God as a concept is, of course, we can only rely on the definitions of God that are handed to us by and in our case, we get mostly Christian calls because America, Christianity's the majority faith. So that's who we hear from in 99.9% of our calls. So we can only rely on the information and that our callers give us, or that established religions give us, pertaining to what God is like. Now, if those definitions of God that are provided to us by those who believe in Him don't make sense to us, then that's what we're critiquing. My criticism of the God of Christianity, of course, is simply based upon the fact that I don't think this God is defined in a way that makes sense. Now, if you want to talk about a different, now you were talking maybe more about, you were talking more about a concept of God that could probably be said to be more deistic in nature, which is that maybe there is some sort of divine force that governs nature, and we don't really have a clear definition of it, and no religion, none of the established religions are right about it. It's entire. Sure, that's very possible that there could be some sort of concept of deity that is operational in some way, and no religion that exists in the world has pinned it down. None of the religions there could be a situation where, yes, there's a God, but there's not a single religion out of the thousands and thousands of them in the face of the earth that has it right. But then in that case, what have we got? We have a being about which we currently know nothing whatsoever, and we don't have a mechanism for knowing really anything about this being, unless this being gets all fed up one day and says, the heck with all these stupid religions saying that I'm a guy with a big goat's head. I'm going to, get down there and define myself.
Who said anything about a being? I mean...
Well, who knows? A being, a force, whatever.
See, that's pretty much part of the definition of God.
Yeah, I mean, the more vague you get, the harder it is to really be able to say anything meaningful about something.
If there were a God, right, and He wanted to reveal Himself, and I say He, I'm trying to get away from...
Yeah, we know what you mean.
But if it were to try to reveal the truth to everybody, whatever, 2,000 years ago when the Bible came out or whatever, it would have to go with the lowest common denominator. And it would come out sounding pretty stupid and elementary.
Why couldn't it just talk to every individual person like it seemed to do in the old days?
Yeah, you got me on that one.
Yeah. So what we're saying is,
I wasn't trying to get to
the more vague it gets, the harder it is to be able to really say anything meaningful about it. So we can only rely on what those people who have various religious belief systems tells us what they think we should believe in. And
the original point I was making is that you guys are often attacking the Catholic Church, organized religions themselves, and not the concept of God. And I think the two kind of get intermixed on your show a lot.
And we do have a fair bit of criticisms or ideas against the idea of a God, depending on how it's defined, what aspects of it you want to bring up, and stuff like that. There are logical reasons, philosophical reasons, and so on, where we could have issues with that. Religion is basically just the earthly manifestation of it, and so we can point out that if God is supposed to be handing down all these commandments, and all His followers who actually believe are supposed to be doing such a good job, why do we have all this bad stuff happening in the name of religion and actually through the people who are supposed to be supporting it? Yeah, I don't believe in a God, and I can give you 101 reasons why that is. But I can also give you another 101 reasons as to why religion itself, Christianity or Judaism or whatever, is also not a very good thing either. Yeah, that's an important point to make, is that just speaking for myself, right? I don't have any vested interest in asserting, that no such being could possibly exist. I will be perfectly delighted to believe anything, provided it is supported by compelling evidence that can be examined, tested, and made to make sense. So that's what I constantly say when I am debate. I debate a lot of Christians via email, who watch the show and they contact me via email, what happens? And I'm like, look, if you have evidence for your claim, present it, and I will be happy to judge it. But lacking any compelling evidence, no one is under any obligation to believe in anything, whether it's a God or whether it's somebody telling you that a UFO landed in their backyard last night. Without evidence, you are under no obligation to believe anything anybody tells you.
All right, and one more small little thing.
Okay.
Do you ever get the feeling that maybe you just enjoy debating more than the actual debate about God? You enjoy debating itself?
Well, I enjoy debating,
Oh,
sure.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, could this just be more about your desire to debate, and this just happens to be a good subject to debate about?
Well, yes and no. I do enjoy debating, right? I love to talk to people who don't agree with me on stuff, particularly this stuff. But the Atheist Community of Austin, again, was set up as, initially it was a social group, and it's an opportunity for unbelievers to sort of get together and kind of pool their resources in a culture that is overwhelmingly religious. And so, yeah, we think that, considering that religion right now has 5, full-time networks on digital cable, that, for us to have 90 minutes on a Sunday afternoon is hardly, an unfair way to express the opposing views. So
very true.
Yeah. So anyway, hey, we appreciate you watching and calling us and asking us questions. Call us back anytime. All right.
All right. Thanks.
Take care.
Thanks.
So, okay, let's see what Nancy on 2 has to say. Nancy?
Yeah.
Hey, thank you for waiting.
That's fine. I want to talk to you about your concern about the evidence. There's no evidence for God and His existence.
Okay, go ahead.
There's overwhelming evidence, and you say that you grew up in a church, and I don't know if that church opened up a Bible, but it's amazing how consistent the Bible is.
Oh, it is? Oh, really?
Yes, it is. Because it was written. It was written over so many hundreds of years, and it's got the same message, the same God.
Are you sure about this?
Of course, I'm sure about it.
Okay. So what do you think then about the 2 creation stories?
I'm not aware of any 2 creation.
But wait, I thought you said that you were familiar with the Bible and were aware of its wonderful consistency. There are 2. Where's our caller? She hung up? Oh, she hung up. See? Okay, sorry. Look, see, this is, like we said, we like debating.
Disconnected or whatever.
Wait a minute, no, I'm still getting a blink on the, all right, never mind then. Okay. Well, first off, you cannot just she might still be there.
Somebody in the control room pick her up and see if it's still her.
See if she's still there. Hang on, Nancy. We may have had a control room problem. This might, if you...
I'm on the line.
You're on the line. Okay, we're
go.
sorry. That wasn't, we apologize. That was, we should know. We have so many technical problems. All right.
As you know, in the beginning.
The Old Testament was, the Pentateuch was comprised from 2 texts. You're aware of that, right?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
But the Old Testament, I know we have the first 5 books, and we have the rest of the Old Testament.
Okay, so you have the first version of creation in which God creates man first, and then the animals, and then woman. And then you have the second version in which God creates man, then woman, and then the animals.
I don't get that because He created everything in the 7 days.
First is Genesis 1.
Yeah, but it's one of the points is that the ordering is different. And so if this is the inspired word of God and it's perfect and there's no contradiction and it's so consistent, why are there 2 slightly different versions? Granted, it's a relatively minor point, but there are still 2 different stories.
Yeah.
And there are dozens of those. If you look at the actual, I think it's the Gospel.
Genesis 2:4.
What Bibles are you reading from?
This is the New Revised Standard Version.
But it's the same in King James or any other one that you decide to pull out.
Any version of the Bible, look at Genesis 2:4.
Okay.
I was under the impression that He created. I haven't read it in a while.
Okay. All right.
But I am a Bible believing Christian.
Okay.
But I don't want to get on technicals. But
well, no, it's very important. It's important, right?
Yeah,
because the claim that we hear from Christians, okay, and that we've heard from you on this show today, is that it is a divinely inspired text that although it was written over centuries of time, is somehow remarkably consistent.
It's saying the same thing. It all points to Jesus.
But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If you're talking about a divinely inspired document that has supposedly been dictated to man in a sense by an omniscient, omnipotent deity, there is no reason for there to be any sort of inconsistencies or inaccuracies
I
within
wasn't
the
aware
text.
that there was some inconsistency in the beginning of it. Okay. I've never heard this argument
What I'm saying
before.
is and you can read it yourself, from the very opening passages of the Old Testament, there are contradictory passages. Starting from Genesis 1 gives you one depiction of how creation is supposed to have transpired, and you get an entirely different one in Genesis 2. And we know why this is. It is because the Pentateuch, the original 5 books of Moses, came from several different sources, and particularly Genesis came from 2 different sources. The nation of Israel back in these days was split into 2 nations. There was the nation of Israel, and then to the north, and then there was the nation of Judah to the south. And both of these nations were handing down oral traditions from centuries before them. And what happened was when the two nations came together and formed the complete nation, they attempted to combine these two texts in order to have their oral histories in their Old Testament be all together. And this is why you get these inconsistencies.
I don't pretend to know every part of the Bible and every argument, but I know that they point to the same God. He's forever the same. And the reason when you're saying,
but it's not even that.
I don't know the guy in the red shirt, but you were concerned that people that claimed there was evil things going on by people that were supposed to be Christians. And I'm saying, yes, that's true, but the heart of the matter is, do they truly love Jesus? Because Jesus said, whoever would do something to the least of these, it would be better for him to be thrown in the ocean.
Right.
I don't know the exact
and
quote.
many of them do. Many of these priests
and
are...
that's the point I'm getting to. It's not about religion. It's about having a personal relationship with Jesus Christ.
Okay, but above and beyond that, okay, the fact is...
If they truly had a heart change, they wouldn't have done that to those children.
Hang on.
And that's what we're talking about, a heart change. We're not talking about a religion.
But
we're not talking about
what we're talking about, though,
we're talking about a relationship with Jesus Christ.
No, what we started with this what we started the conversation about, right, was evidence, the question of evidence. Now, you want to talk about having personal relationships with Jesus and all that sort of thing.
Tell me what other book has had that type of history.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Look at the dinosaurs.
You cannot use...
Look at the dinosaurs and say, how did that happen? How did those things get there under all that mud? And they're like, there's a flood. The Bible reports a flood, and yet it's there.
Nancy,
don't make us cut you off.
Nancy, this has to be a two-way thing. All right. So this is a dialogue. Back when I take a turn, you take a turn. Okay. You cannot. Using the Bible to prove the Bible is called a circular argument. Okay. There is this holy text for the Christian faith, but there are 2,000 religions in the world that have their holy text, each of whom have believers claiming their holy text is the true one, the accurate one. The one that has this wonderful history.
And they've been proven wrong, but the Bible
Wait a second. What do you mean the Bible hasn't been proven wrong?
I mean,
we just showed you.
To think that the
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The evidence is.
And the Bible said it was round.
The evidence is an entirely separate question from what does the Holy Book say in it?
It's been time tested.
Okay. It may have said the world is round. It also said, what about the four corners? Now, hang on a second.
Let's not do the crosstalk one at a time.
One really quick point. There is a website that you can check out called Skeptics Annotated Bible. It's the entire King James Version of the Bible, but it's all cross-linked to say, God did this, and then it'll link to another part of it that says God did the exact opposite. And so it points out a lot of contradictions and just plain moral
listen.
But the point is, Nancy,
everything I read in the Bible points to Jesus.
It doesn't matter. Look,
then you haven't read very much. Then you haven't read the whole thing nearly enough.
But guys, that's irrelevant, okay? Because everything I read in a Spider-Man comic points to Spider-Man, okay? The question is there evidence to support the claims that are made in the Bible? The claims that are made in the Bible.
I mean, people testified about seeing Jesus and about his life. I mean, nobody was going to lie.
There are people that see UFOs.
No one was going to die for their for saying,
the point is, if there is evidence to support the claims that are made in the Bible, then that's what has to be looked at. That's what I was trying to say the whole previous time. Is that the evidence is a separate issue from what is actually written in the text. If we have evidence for this being, then very much I'd like to see it. But to say, give me some evidence for the claims made in the Bible, to point to a Bible quote for that is called a tautology. It's a circular argument. You can't use the Bible to prove itself. The evidence has to be stuff that you can independently test and confirm. That's what we're talking about.
If you look around you, it proves itself.
Look around me, it proves itself. No, see,
there's a lot of proof for evolution and the Big Bang theory.
You're getting into details that are unnecessary. Okay,
like
I don't think you don't have an understanding of what the term evidence means. That's, I think, the key here. You don't really have an understanding of what that means. Okay.
What kind of evidence did you need?
Anything that can be tested and confirmed and independently confirmed by multiple sources that all come to more or less the same conclusion.
At that point, all those disciples, that wasn't proof enough. Those are different people.
All I have for the existence of the disciples is claims that are made in the text. The only evidence that you have that there were disciples out around doing anything are claims that are made in the New Testament of the Bible.
That talk about Jesus. There are other sources.
And most of the evidence for the disciples also points to them being
and the
writing
point
about
is,
it 50 years after his death.
And the point is, you're not, as you stated,
they still died for their belief.
as you stated earlier, Nancy, and we're going to go ahead and bring this one to a close, but as you stated earlier, Nancy, okay, you said that you weren't aware of the history and you weren't aware of a lot of the facts that went into the actual writing.
I wasn't aware that there were two different evidences. I've heard people argue about
so
the
what I'm
days
saying
and
is,
the
what I'm
years.
saying is, the reason you're holding the points of view you're holding right now is because you aren't in full possession of the facts that entailed the actual writing and compiling of this book.
They asked the blind man. They said, "Well, what happened with this Jesus that you were blind and now you can see?" Can I finish? Can I please finish?
You can finish.
They said, what happened? Weren't you blind? And he says, "All I know is he touched me, and that's about what I know. I know that he touched me, and I know he's real."
Yeah. That's a story in a book.
Again,
there are lots of stories in lots of books.
If personal emotional experiences that you have had aren't the kind of evidence that other people can test.
All I say is he says, "Test me and see." That's what the Bible says. So test him. Taste and you'll see.
We have been doing this show now live for something on 3 years. I think that there's been any number of opportunities for an omniscient, omnipotent being to provide us with good, solid evidence, unambiguous evidence of his existence. Okay?
I would be delighted if you would walk in the studio right now and give us away.
We appreciate your call, but again, I don't think you have a good understanding of what we mean when we talk about evidence, and clearly you don't understand the history surrounding the actual life, the actual times in which the Bible was written and compiled. So, attain an understanding of that and call us back and challenge us again.
Wait
all right?
a second. I have one more thing to add.
Okay.
At the end of your program, you say, "Well, Christians, we don't hate you. We just think you're wrong."
Right.
I think the reason why you talk about Christians is because you know there's something wonderful about Jesus Christ. And that's why you don't touch the other ones. You know there's something wonderful about Jesus.
Yes.
No, sorry.
All right.
See, okay,
have a nice evening.
Yeah. That's the best she can do, then that's probably there's a sort of like,
Okay.
Anyway.
Don't release him.
What?
By analogy, I would think that, George Bush must be the biggest liberal in the world.
Yes. Well, clearly the anti-abortion lobby must think abortion's a wonderful thing.
They must love abortion.
No,
because they talk about it so much.
This is very reminiscent. I just want to, just before we go, we do want to go into Wes and Mike now, but very reminiscent of, I was engaged about a week ago in a brief email exchange with a Christian lady who had watched our television show. And Nancy's call was very reminiscent of the tone that her letters were taking, because you forwarded the first one to me, so you probably read it, and then I responded, and then she wrote back, and I responded, and then she hasn't written back since. But all she really had, again, not a shred of actual evidence for this deity. Her two letters that she wrote me, they consisted of a series of emotional appeals, such as what we heard at the end of Nancy's call, coupled with this very bizarre attempt to justify all of the divine atrocities that God has perpetrated in the Old Testament. And she brought up the example of the poor Uzzah, the ox cart driver, who tried to prevent the Ark of the Covenant from falling and was struck dead. And it was this really, really bizarre attempt at rationalizing this, but at no time did she actually provide evidence that I could examine on my own for this deity. It was all this series of emotional appeals. Wouldn't it be nicer? Wouldn't it be better?
Yeah. If you just sit down in your bed tonight and pray, you'll find him.
Hey, again, the time to believe in things is when a careful examination of the available evidence makes not believing in that thing moot, and makes believing in that thing a perfectly sensible thing to do. Okay, so...
Other button.
Other
button.
Thank you. See, I'm just sort of like da-da-da-da. I'm so used to that today. Wes is on 3. Let's see what he has to say about this. Wes?
Yeah.
Hey, thanks for holding.
Yeah, I won't take up a whole lot of time like that last lady did.
Oh, we're sorry about that.
But, I've been watching the show since it started, and
Uh-huh.
I'm still kind of confused about the point. Do you have a target audience, and if so, is it Christians or non-Christians?
Okay, well, the show serves a couple of functions. First off, we are in outreach to other atheists and unbelievers in the Austin community.
Well, if it's an outreach to the to the other people, non-Christians like myself, I kind of wish you guys would quit giving so much airtime to the Christians. You're not going to convince them
that
their beliefs aren't
That's
real.
true.
And you, especially not with evidence out of the Bible, and you try to use reason and you try to use evidence with these people. you know, there's a saying something about non-believers. There'll never be enough evidence, and the believers don't need any evidence.
Right.
And you know what I'd like to see, really, the focus of the show more on the damage that organized religion has done to the human race, and what can we do to turn this thing around?
Well, your point's very well taken, and we do address that quite a lot in our news. I mean, as much as we can, but at the same time, right, we don't want to seem like we're just up here bashing, right? We want to provide positive information. We like to do just as many news articles when we can on very good scientific progress that has been made in some field that will be beneficial to the human race. And when we critique religion and when we criticize what the horrible things that the church is up to, such as not just the pedophilia scandal, but in other areas of the globe, such as the whole Islamic extremism that has led to this culture of terrorism over there,
the theocracy in America,
we do address a lot of we do a lot of bad stuff that religious people do is a thing that we cover on the program. But getting back to your original to your first question. The reason we have these open phone call debates is not that we hope to change the mind of the person who is actually calling us, right? Because your point's well taken, right? These are folks who are essentially fixed in their beliefs, and arguments that we provide aren't necessarily going to sway them. However, the thing is, these kinds of arguments that we're doing on our show are not given a public forum really anywhere in American media, if you think about it. And the fact is, no one gets an opportunity to even hear what some of the criticisms of Christianity or other religions are.
Can I get one more quick one in?
Sure.
Do you think that the reason for most of these theistic belief systems is fear of our own mortality?
Sure.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, I mean
that's
that
the
has
basic motivation.
It has something to do with that. I think it has more than that, though. I mean, clearly people are afraid. Everyone wants a cure for death, right? But I think that while that is a strong element, I think that what more people are persuaded by, at least in the Judeo-Christian faith, is this idea of a grand payoff at the end of it all. I think the promise of when you die, you don't.
Right. Your deceased loved ones are safe now and in the hands of their loving Jesus.
Yep. And someday
that's all about the fear of your mortality.
Yeah. So that is an element, but instead of what you have in Christianity specifically is a belief system that's sort of a carrot and stick belief system, right? Heaven's the carrot that they dangle in front of you to persuade you that this is a thing to be part of. You get the big payoff, the prize after death, and then hell is the stick that they thwack you with.
It's a pretty big gamble, isn't it?
Yeah, the fear
like
of
all or nothing. You either got paradise for all eternity, or you got hell for all eternity. Yeah. So it's a pretty big gamble there if you choose the wrong one.
Where's God's equivalent of a parking ticket?
Yeah. So it's that carrot and stick approach to religious faith. Promising you the wonderful wealth and riches and reward that you will get at the end of it all, while at the same time keeping you in line and keeping you in the pews and keeping you following the rules of the leaders, with the stick, hell, threatening you with hell, always behind you, carrot, stick. So, in my opinion, and I know some people might disagree with this, I think that the doctrine of hell is an aspect of the Christian faith that forever removes Christianity from any sort of consideration as a morally sound belief system. Because let's face it, if Christianity really were a religion about hope and about love and about looking forward to good things and about positive stuff, it wouldn't need hell, okay? I mean, when you get right down to it, heaven ought to be enough. Heaven really ought to be enough. But the threat of eternal torture for simply not being a member of this club, I think forever removes Christianity from being considered a moral belief system.
Yeah, there are some theistic religions in some forms of Christianity that don't put emphasis on the burning hell.
Well, that's true, but but they all have the hell there.
Yeah, but hell it's not always just really
hell is referred
horrible.
to. Yeah, but hell is referred to in Scripture. But some people who are uncomfortable with the torture. But see, here is now the response that they make to criticisms from atheists that the very doctrine of hell itself is an immoral teaching. Some of them say, oh, well, it's not really torture. You're not really burned in a big lake of fire or stretched out on a rack or have hot pinchers stuck inside you. It's more of hell is more of an eternal separation from God and what have you, or it's like, well, you know, I'm an atheist. I don't believe in God anyway. I'm already, you could say, separate from God if He exists.
We're in hell.
So it's not like, I mean, if so, so what are you saying? Hell is no different from the life I'm living now.
Hey
So
guys,
again,
I'll
they
go ahead
can't
and
really.
get out of your way.
There's
I'd
no,
just
there's
like
no
to
way
say,
that they can. I'm sorry.
You know, thanks a lot for the effort.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I appreciate it. I know there's a bunch of people that appreciate it.
Yeah.
And one suggestion before I go, give less of your phone time to the proselytizing Christians. They got their own thing to go to.
Well, that's very true. But again, we want to be these people who, we unlike the Christian shows, who will hang up on you the instant you say one syllable that disagrees with their point of views. We want to be able to get people on here, be fair, give them their opportunity to say their piece, and then engage in dialogue and debate.
Well, they tell you Jesus loves you, but I think they really want to see you burning in hell.
Oh, no question about it.
All right, guys,
What was
thanks
I
a
saying?
lot. See you next time. Bye.
I'd like to say something real quick about the
point
beginning
two.
of that call.
Okay.
That as one of the show's producers, you know, I'm always very concerned about what's interesting to callers, and of course, there's a line we gotta walk, because some people are interested in one kind of discussion, and some people are interested in another kind of discussion. And I personally feel that the show should be about equal parts arguing about whether religion could be true, arguing about whether religion is harmful in a very practical sense, and talking about positive things like scientific discoveries and such. And you know, for the past few weeks, for instance, there's been a lot of talk about the Catholic Church, and I've talked about trying to steer the show away from that a little bit, because we don't want to be just sitting there going, you know, oh, Catholics are evil, Catholics are evil. I mean, the Protestants do enough of that.
Yeah. Well, see, I bristle at claims that when we do these criticisms, that we are just bashing these people.
Right.
Because all forms of Christianity do take the view that anybody who isn't a member is destined for this sort of eternal torment. And so I think that that is a pretty unkind thing to say about folks.
There's also one more quick point, too.
Sure.
He had said that give less airtime to the proselytizing Christians. In a way, that's true, but we're not trying to convert them. It's also, there's a big audience out there listening in, and it's for them to get an aspect and to see what's going on.
Yeah. Well,
So,
and again, we
don't
can't
expect it for the caller, but the
well,
audience may.
we can't control what the caller wants to talk about. We can't do that.
That-
I mean, the
that's
callers
true.
are
That's
going
part
to
of it,
call. But that's what makes live television fun. We have time for one more, and this is Mike on one. Mike?
Yeah, I just had a question. What do you think about the people that perpetrate crimes and hate the good people that we worship God here on Earth? What do you think they go to? Like, do you think they just go into space and they never have to pay for their actions?
Well,
what do you think about that?
To go into space, they would have to achieve escape velocity.
Yeah. Well, I think that anybody, right? We have a criminal justice system in our society and in our culture, and I think that anybody who commits crimes ought to be punished under the law. And the laws that we have, work. Granted, our criminal justice system isn't perfect, but if anybody were to commit a crime against anyone else, I think that that's a wrong thing to do, and our justice system should deal with them.
Yeah, but it's not just about the justice system. There has to be something more, because what if they lose their lives in the like the September 11 attacks? How those people lost their lives for the God that they believed in.
Sure.
It's kind of like a interesting paradigm, because those people never got to see the justice system. The justice system is gone.
That's true.
So what do you think about that?
Well, you know,
it sucks.
It sucks. I mean,
it sucks. You can't just say it sucks. I mean, you have to live your life to worship God and live a good life.
Well, no,
so that
as much as I would like to see justice prevail,
can you please not interpret me?
it doesn't mean it will.
My thought?
We're running out of time, though. We got to get to the point.
Okay, you have to live your life as a good Christian here on Earth, so you can have something to look forward to after life.
Right.
Because that's not what life is about. If everything was just about the legal system, they would be screwed up, man. I would not want to live in a society like that, just on the legal system.
Okay, so
you know what I mean? It would be like the Matrix.
So then to you, the motivation for moral behavior is personal reward.
Well, that's part of it, yes, sir. That's part of the solution.
Okay, so moral behavior is not an end in itself. I mean, the idea of doing something good just because it's a good thing. In other words, if you didn't have a reward, a heavenly reward to look forward to, would you still live the life you're living today, being a good person, doing good stuff?
Well, that'd be. I mean, that's kind of a hypothetical question. I mean, you
But
can't
why-
just ask me that because there's
Well, why not? I mean, it's a yes or no
one
question.
answer to that question.
Well, because but
But
why
yes,
wouldn't?
I would. I mean,
Okay, so then the promise of some sort of otherworldly prize is the motivating factor for religious
it's part
morality.
of it. Like I said, it's part
Okay.
of the equation.
All right. Well, thanks a lot. Well, we are flat out of
I hope
time
you
now.
can understand it.
Okay, we're flat out of time, and we're sorry, but we appreciate hearing from all of our callers. Again, watch us every Sunday, 4:30 p.m. On this network. Nonprofit Saturdays at 2:30. Here goes our love rings out to Austin.
Bye, everybody.
Christians, we don't hate ya. We just think you're wrong. And we thank you for watching. Visit www.atheist-community.org for more information about our site and stuff.
And we'll see you next